I am so thrilled to be here today and be part of this Light the Fire event. I have to give a huge round of applause to the people who've been up here before me sharing their stories, because sharing your failure is really hard. Admitting you failed on something is even harder, because you have to admit to yourself there was something wrong. I'm about to share my story. I've actually never shared my full story in a public capacity, but when I talked with Cannell, it was one of those, he's like, people need to hear this. They need to hear internal failure, not just the professional failures. So, and I'm gonna warn you, there will probably be waterworks. Ignore how ugly my makeup gets. I tried to put the waterproof on just to be safe, but we'll test the theory. So to take you to my failure, I have to take you back actually to when I was born. I didn't know this until a little later on in my childhood, but my first failure was, I was born a girl. It's kind of hard to hear, especially when it's from your father, but he really, really wanted a boy. So I started out an uphill battle of just being uncomfortable with myself, which led to me being a very shy child, a very drawn in. It was interesting. You see me standing here presenting now. Growing up, I was the child who, even if I met you 24 times, I'd be hiding back here behind my parents, my grandparents, whoever I was with, peeking out, going, hi. And if you got a hi, I had met you many times. Otherwise, no, I didn't know you. That carried all the way through my high school years, up until a month after I turned 17, my senior year of high school. I went to the doctors. Ladies, you'll relate to this one. I went to the female doctor. I'm up in the stirrups, and the first time ever being in this situation, which is as uncomfortable as can be, I hear the words, "That doesn't look right." I'm sorry, excuse me, what? That doesn't look right? What is that, and what is it supposed to look like? So they proceed to tell me, the male doctor I have, oh, I need to do a biopsy. I've never seen something like that before, and I don't know what's wrong with you. Okay, I'm not panicking, I'm not freaking out. We'll figure it out. So we do the biopsy. I come back. We sit down. I'm still 17, trying to enjoy my senior year of high school. Hate dealing with people. Am so shy beyond belief. And we sit down in the doctor's office, and he tells me, you have cancer. It's in your reproductive organs. Were children on the table for you? I said, I'm 17. I don't know. Well, I hope it wasn't, because you're never going to have kids. Needless to say, he had amazing bedside manner. Cue the biggest eye roll ever. We proceed to converse more. He tells me, I hope you don't have too many future plans. I don't see you living past 23, because this is aggressive. Oh, okay, well, there goes the idea of being a lawyer that I had thought I was going to go do. There goes all the traveling plans I imagined, all the amazing things you think when you're a senior in high school you're gonna do. Gone. I spent the next 5 years really internalizing, because that first failure set in, this is because I'm a girl. I also found this out at the height of when HPV was coming around, and everybody said it was a sexually transmitted disease. That's how you got cervical cancer. I didn't. My body failed me. I had a genetic flaw. My cancer was genetic-based. It was a mutation. So I had to argue every doctor's visit, even though we had the DNA to prove it. I didn't get this from being promiscuous. I got this because my body failed me. I got this because, and in my head, I ran through, I'm a failure. My dad told me this growing up all the time. I wish you were a son. I wish you were a son. You know, at this moment, damn, I wish I was a son too, because I don't think they would have had to deal with cervical issues and ovarian issues and uterus issues. And I spent the next 5 years when my family would ask, what do you want for Christmas? Because we would try to spice it up and, make it seem normal. I don't know how you make it seem normal when you have a clock ticking down telling you you're not going to be here. I'd tell them, I want a hysterectomy. I want things removed. I want to be normal. I don't know what normal is, but I want it. I want control of my body. I want to feel like everyone else did. That didn't happen till 2018. But in between that period in 2018, I went through about 3 more doctors. A female doctor who I thought would have more compassion. She butchered me worse than the men, which damaged my trust, which led me back to thinking, I failed because I picked her. I went to another male doctor who was heavily religious. So when I had my miscarriages because of my cancer, he told me it was my fault, that I was being cursed. He also would tell me, no, you can't have hormone treatments to help offset the ovarian cysts, which is what one of the common things are to do, because he didn't believe in it. And I would go back to and I'd sit down and I'd go, I screwed up, I failed again. I picked another bad one. I would have very little self-worth through all of this, and I struggled, which led to when you have failure and you feel like you question yourself all the time, you attract others who feed upon that to make themselves feel better. So I become circled around with a whole bunch of very narcissistic personalities that fed off of my failure, because I didn't want to think about what I was doing wrong for myself. So I built them up. I made them feel better about themselves. That's hard. You can't fix yourself if you're not able to acknowledge what's going on because you're too busy building up others. Fast forward in this period of while I'm sick, about 2002 rolls around. I met someone who was amazing. He is still amazing. He was already a dad, so when I said, hey, I can't give you kids, he said, I got one, I'm good. Been through that ride, dealt with crazy pregnancy, don't look to do it again. I was like, awesome. He was shy and introverted, so he didn't want to ask a whole bunch of questions. I, at this point, had learned to become independent, going to all my doctor's visits on my own because nobody else really knew how to handle it, deal with it, and face it. So I dealt with that. That's hard, but it's one of the things when you feel like you're failing, you want to internalize it all on your own and protect others. So, we did that. I protected everybody. Nobody realized how bad my cancer was. Nobody realized outside of those first few visits when my mom would come with me because I was a minor. And it became hard. I felt very isolated. In the meantime, I'm going out in the public. I'm everywhere. I'm talking. I'm building each other, other people up. And inside, I'm going, you suck. You're wrong. You don't know how to make a decision. Who thought it was a good idea to put you in charge? Or is it just because you're loud now? Because I did learn that. I learned through my failures lots of wonderful things. I have a big passion for superheroes. And one superhero that really speaks to me because she rocks red hair is Rogue from the X-Men. She didn't want people to touch her because they got too close, they died. Totally understood that. You didn't get too close, not because you would die, but because I was still afraid I would die. Made it past the 23rd birthday, but I still didn't know because in the back of your mind, I'm still sick. I still have cancer cells inside of my body actively from the age of 17 until 2018. So almost 20 years. I had cells living inside of me that wanted to kill me, and I didn't know how to deal with it. So I related to my superheroes, and I joke, my failure became my superpower. Because as I said, it taught me to stand up and speak for myself, because when the doctors couldn't or wouldn't advocate for me, I had many screaming matches with an insurance company. I also got the privilege, years later, after I had my hysterectomy, I ran into that first doctor. Now, he no longer practices. Thank goodness. Went up to him, we were at an event. He introduced himself, I introduced myself. Now, when somebody's told you you're gonna die, you think you've made an impression on their life. His words were, well, it's nice to meet you. You jerk. You crippled my life for most of my life, and I was a blip on your screen. It, in that moment, made me realize how much my failure doesn't matter to other people. I have to conquer my failures. So we talked. I proceeded to tell him who I really was. And he kind of goes, oh, glad I got that one wrong, I guess. I just looked at him, I was like, I'm so glad you're no longer practicing. It was a very freeing moment to get to face in my mind, I could never visualize the cancer. He became my cancer in terms of what I envisioned. And he brought that forward, and when I could face him and say, thanks for that. I'm glad you're so broken up over the fact you told a woman she'd die and put me through everything. By the way, I have 2 beautiful children you told me I'd never have, so that's awesome. And I'm getting ready at the end of this year to celebrate my 41st birthday, so congrats to me, It was just one of those moments, but again, I know now, looking back, if I didn't have this failure in my life and create this strife and this fight, I wouldn't learn to be vocal. I wouldn't learn to speak up. I wouldn't have the interests and the passions I do now because I wouldn't learn to fight for things that matter, because that's what it did. It also taught me a lot of other fun tricks that come in handy as a business owner, which was one of the triggers that would flare up on my illness for my ovarian cyst was stress. So the more stressed I got, the more pain I had. The more pain I had, the less I was able to do. So I had to learn to manage stress really quickly in order to do anything. So it was nice that, hey, trade-off, you're going to think you die for the remainder of your life, but on the offset, you get to learn how not to be stressed out over it and look calm and cool. So that was fun. It was hard. But I share this because there's a lot of people who face internal struggles, internal failures. It might not be that you had family telling you were a wrong gender. It might not be that you get some death sentence from some illness. It could just be something where you just kind of question your confidence and your self-worth. But whatever it is, it's because it's trying to help guide you and tell you something. And that was hard, to learn that the voice inside of your head really isn't battling against you. It is trying to push you forward. It's trying to lead you to something better. I relate a lot with music as well as my comic books, and one of my favorite lines in a song is, good things whisper and bad things shout. So all the bad things in my life were shouting at me how I was doing things wrong. The good things inside of my head, while yes, it was the cancer talking to me, was stand up for yourself. Tell people that I can go away. Maybe you calm down a little bit about that deadline, because otherwise you're going to sleep on the couch for the next 2 weeks because sitting upright's the only way that you don't feel pain. My body's sitting there telling me as I had miscarriages and stuff, no, this is proof. We're healing. The doctor's wrong. don't listen to the diagnosis they're giving you, because I'm going to show you, you can have those children. Oh, some days though, if you have teenagers, I've got one heading into preteens and one that's in the middle of her teens, and whoo. There's white streaks. I'm starting to look more like Rogue every day in my red. They're the full reason for it. So, but, you know, I have to say, it was a long time coming, but I'm grateful for that failure. Because I think, honestly, if I were to be in the position where I was pre-cancer, I'd be a mousy little housewife who just sits there at home and does nothing. And instead, I've spent, much of my life building up others. Yes, some of them were narcissistic, and probably I shouldn't have. But there were business owners I inspired and pushed. There were friends and family I've pushed. All of those things, because they were like, you have a pragmatic approach to how to view this. Well, my pragmatic approach came from having to sit down and analyze information over and over. So, whatever that failure is you're facing internally, we each have one that we're sitting there going, I don't want to deal with this, I don't want to deal with this. I'm here to tell you, sit down in the quiet, in that moment, listen to what it's telling you. There's some good in that quiet. There's some good in that voice that is playing over in your head. You just have to hear it past the bad things shouting at you, the hard things that are shouting at you. And sometimes that's the biggest challenge. But at the end, it's going to give you so much more. And it's going to help you develop what your superpower is, where it comes, your strength from your internal. So I want to thank you guys. I'm proud of myself. Hey, I didn't cry. I didn't test out my waterproof mascara. So that's kind of amazing. Look, there's another piece. But I do. I hope sharing this story helps you realize you can have a whole lot of mess going on the inside, and people will still think what they will of you, but it's what you feel on the inside that's going to matter and get you through your failure the most. So I want to thank the team from Proceed to Lead for allowing me to be part of this Light the Fire event this year, and I'm looking forward to getting feedback and hearing from all of you on what your challenges are and how you're going to overcome them. Thank you guys very much.